I'd go with what we got
Yeah.
because those of us who are here are interested enough to be here.
So I'm sharing the results.
Oh, fun.
Somebody says they're wearing PJs. And let's see, we have about an even split between being invisible, talking to animals, reading minds. Okay, now this is actually a more important poll.
All of the above.
There you go. Tori, if you're talking, you're muted.
Hello.
Hi.
So I just joined last minute. I saw Diane's email, so.
Okay. Did you want to say anything to open up?
Hello. Hello. I'm literally like last minute, so hello.
Hi. Okay.
Glad you're here.
Well, and I want to know how you do those polls.
Well, I actually just finished a video training on doing that. So I will provide the links to the video training that I just did, and we can talk about that. I really do want today's meeting. I have no particular agenda. I really just kind of want to respond to what you guys need to know. I can kind of start from the beginning and work my way through Zoom, but that may be inappropriate or not quite as applicable. So we'll start kind of first with a lot of co-working and meetings. Not only half of you with training. Oh, I love to talk about internet connections, and hardly anybody wants any of that.
Guess we got that one down.
You think you do.
Or somebody has it done for us.
Well, my thing is, what I always try to get across is that if there's any way that you can hardwire your computer and get away from Wi-Fi, the better. Wi-Fi is a very poor manager of networking, and so if you have multiple devices on a Wi-Fi, then it tends to be your worst enemy. So it's not necessarily reliable, and if you're borderline with your broadband, then Wi-Fi is terrible. I'm completely hardwired here because I have a really high speed Wi-Fi, but my signal will go in and out too. So there's a lot of interest in hardware and mics and cameras and administrative settings and engaging participants.
So if the hardwire would be even, I know my husband and I use our Wi-Fi at home, and then I would guess almost everybody here is the home base. But if we were to do a large meeting, say with 1,000 people, the hardwire would become even more important. Does it matter how many people are on, or because I get these notices during meetings, you have an unstable, but it doesn't stop the meeting.
Right. So
can I interrupt you for just a second? Did I miss introductions? I just would love to go around the room and just have people just introduce. Okay. I might have missed them because I came in a little late. Could we at some point just do that to see who's out here and say hi?
Go ahead.
Well, you start. You're the presenter.
Well, I'm Ken Sharvo. I write technology training and produce how-to videos and explainer videos and animated videos and all kinds of stuff for mostly for a nonprofit that's based out of St. Louis. but it's a national nonprofit. So I happen to have been using Zoom. I work remotely. I have for 11 years. I've been using Zoom since I first evaluated online training in 2015. So that's kind of my background with this.
Thank you. Diane, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm a volunteer with SAVMA and with the Green Valley Volunteer Clearinghouse. And I just took on another volunteer job with grant writing for the Sarita Food Bank, which is, I thought I should learn something new. I'm retired. I worked in nonprofits doing professional development for about 30 years. And I'm not a very good retired person, that's all I could say. And I live in Green Valley. So, and this whole Zoom thing, I'm just really excited about how it's going to change how we work. And I've been so pleased to get to know Ken a little bit and his background, because he didn't tell you that he's been a volunteer manager. And that's one of the things that skyrocketed him into the whole technology piece. And before that, he was a police officer. So a very interesting person, and he serves on the SAVMA board, which is a gift to all of us. So thank you, Ken. So anyway, that's me. I'll be quiet. Who's next?
Super. Actually, I just want to say both Ken and Diane are awesome. They're part of the SAVMA board team, and they have been really pulling more than their weight in getting SAVMA more trainings like these online to help us all in the community as we're navigating this stay at home and technology amplification moment, you know, for all of us as we're trying to do our jobs. I'm Corey Carlson. I'm actually serving as the SAVMA president this year. These guys are just doing Ganga more than some of the rest of us, and we very much appreciate their expertise in what they're doing. I'm a volunteer as well for SAVMA, but my real life, I guess, is I work for Interfaith Community Services as a volunteer manager, and work with trying to figure out how we are keeping going with serving the community through this time as well. So love SAVMA, I've been part of SAVMA for many years, and just want to continue to support the community that we have, this beautiful community we have here in Tucson. So if you wouldn't mind, just go around and say a few words about yourself. We'd love to hear.
Aspen, how about you?
Hi, I'm Aspen Green. Oh, am I? Yeah, I'm not.
You're ready.
I'm Aspen Green. I work at UA Presents, and that's originally how I got involved with SAVMA. I kind of found this organization through friends, and at that time I was a little bit more involved with some of the activities for volunteers. I'll let Taj talk about that though when he gets on. I also work for I also am a volunteer and for the Tucson Folk Festival, which, by the way, uses hundreds of volunteers, although we didn't get to use them this year, but we will again. But you know, some of my interest, I'll be honest, is personal in the sense that I do a local radio show for KXCI. And so I do my radio show through Zoom. And so I do the recording, and I've learned some things, but boy, if anybody I can find out anything more. I think I might have learned all that Zoom has to offer, but I don't know. Somebody said to me yesterday that Skype might be better for recording, and I'm just kind of curious to see what people know. Thank you for saying no. I don't want to go training everybody how to use Skype now. So that's who I am. So I do a lot of volunteer work, and I'm really appreciative of this group.
That's awesome. Thank you and I'm sure that Ken will address that. He has very specific opinions.
I'm glad.
We'll hear that. Joe Smith, are you here?
Actually, that's a monitoring account. So he's not really here. That's actually another monitoring account of mine. So never mind.
Oh, tricky. Taj.
Hello, I'm Taj. I am the events coordinator at Centennial Hall, and as Aspen mentioned, our volunteer coordinator. I'm in kind of a similar situation as Aspen, where I feel like I've gotten pretty comfortable with Zoom, but I have not yet utilized it with touching base with my volunteers. At this point, it's really just been like bi-week or bi-monthly email updates and trying to keep them excited about UA Presents with the stuff that we're doing, like community videos and stuff. But I guess I want to see if there is a way to do more engagement with them. So just wanted to see what y'all have been doing and pick up some ideas, some tips. But yeah, thank you so much for hosting us.
Super.
Thanks,
Actually, I did that with our ICS Volunteers for Appreciation Week. We had daily Zoom meetings, and it was delightful. It took a little bit to kind of get used to that odd format, but by the end of the week, I found the staff that attended, we were so much more inspired, you know, and the volunteers were as well. So it was,
this would be we historically would do some kind of volunteer appreciation as well. You know, it's the end of our season. Normally it would be some kind of a gathering, a barbecue, get some local performer. Aspen's always been really great at helping us get some of our musician friends to play, donate their time. And so now I'm kind of looking for ideas of how to do that remotely. You know, I'm a musician myself, so my coworker Megan and I were talking about it yesterday, and the idea of, you know, recording a song, like a thank you song to them. But you know, maybe this means we could also do that live, and it would be more personal. So, you know, of course, when I'm sure a lot of you are in the situation where you have, you know, hundreds of volunteers, and so it's like, is that feasible to ask 100 people to tap into a Zoom meeting? I know that it is. I've attended, well, we were at the Arizona, UA Arizona town hall for the Arizona Arts Department yesterday, and they said we had something around 175 people on the call. So sounds like it's doable, but I'm just wondering, is there a better way to do it? Is it better to run it as a webinar in that scenario and let people type in questions rather than have them be confused with is my mic on, is my camera on, that kind of stuff? So I guess just looking for tips when you do something like that.
super. There's questions for you to hit, Ken. Super, thank you, Taj.
Yeah.
How about, is Carrie a real person, or is that one of your aliases, Ken?
No.
She's real. All right. Hi, Carrie.
Hello. I am the volunteer program supervisor for Reed Park Zoo, and we have been using Zoom. I was actually first at the zoo to start using Zoom after we closed the zoo, and most of us are working remotely. So we've been holding volunteer meetings as we would at the zoo every day of the week, 8:30 to 9-ish. And so we've been doing that, and then we have been using Zoom for, of course, staff meetings and just catch-up meetings within our own departments. And then we're also doing trainings with our volunteers, so we continue to host trainings with them, but then also we're offering classes for the public to sign up for using Zoom. So that's all on the website. But I figure there's always more to learn, so that is why I'm here.
What a
And
way to
Carrie,
leverage.
how many people max have you had on your? Because I think you chimed in last time when we were on a web meeting.
Yeah, so for the online training classes, we've had probably upwards of 300 plus for those.
And are you using meetings or webinar?
Webinars for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Super, thank you. And Veronica, are you present?
Yes, thank you.
Super.
Am I on? Hold on. Yes, I am.
You're on. We hear you.
I'm the Pet VIP therapy and visitation program lead at the Humane Society. I also do some trainings for Canine Good Citizen, and I've been using Zoom for a variety of things, for meeting with coworkers over, again, a variety of different topics. I have been using Zoom to keep in contact with my team members, my volunteers, which are the therapy teams. And this next week, I'm going to be going full throttle with both the training for Pet VIP and the Canine Good Citizen. So I'm trying to learn as much as possible. I've run into a couple of hiccups already where I've always lived in Arizona, so I didn't really have to choose a time zone. And then I find out last minute that my time was off. So I'm having to go hair on fire trying to let people know, oh, this is not the right meeting or this is not the right time. So it's just, I want to make sure to smooth out any wrinkles I can to make it, as seamless as possible. And then also, I mean, the good thing is that people are very understanding during this time, but I want to make it a positive experience for everybody and use the tools I can to help people learn as much as they can. And that's pretty much it.
That's super, super. Wow. Thank you. And Chris, are you there?
Yeah. So sorry, I got
Hi,
some
Chris.
in the room, so I'm trying to manage them as well. My name is Chris Elsner. I'm the presenter for the upcoming May 21st Zoom meeting for SAVMA. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Globally Good. We're a startup tech company focused on helping nonprofits be better with technology. And the first thing we're looking at is volunteer management. So I'm also a board member on SARSEF and vice president of the board of Tucson Young Professionals. So I've been pretty active in volunteering and working with both of those organizations who also work with volunteers as well. So.
Plus you have two beautiful children. Thanks for sharing them with us.
This is Jack. He's 11 months, and this is Elena. She's 4.
Hello,
Wow.
Elena and Zach.
Who knows, you might see my cat soon. So it's a nice thing about, being part of people's real lives. And that's one thing I really like about this technology, is seeing the backgrounds. It's like you get a more of an idea of who that person is. The Zoom technology to me is just much more, a much more caring way to interact with people, even though they're not there physically. And I'm thinking, Taj, you could have Grubhub send everybody a meal, and then you could have them on Zoom and you could all eat the meal and you could play your music. I mean, there's so many things that you could do with it. It is really going to change how we function as a society, I think, and I'm excited about it. So thanks to Chris and to Ken for sharing their expertise with us.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Oh, take it away, Ken.
Okay, so I use Zoom for kind of specific purposes, and some of you have some experience in other areas. So this is a sharing time. We don't have a campfire and there are no margaritas, but it's still sharing time. So if you have input, let me address the question of webinars versus meetings really quick. If meetings was developed for everybody to have camera and microphone and be able to screen share and annotate and do all those things. So it's kind of a collaborative platform, which when you use it for presentations sometimes causes problems. If you don't turn everything off, then you have what we had the other day. One of our national partners was doing something and somebody had figured out how to annotate. And they thought they were just drawing pictures on their screen, but of course they're drawing it nationally in a national webinar. And so those kinds of things, you have to be really careful about turning off. And so a lot of what I focus on is setting those things up ahead of time so that your default position makes it less likely that you're going to have those kinds of interruptions, and just making sure that everything's turned off. So, and the other thing about the other critical part about meetings is if you're going to, like, I can spotlight my video, which should make it big for everybody. And that's something you can do once you have at least 3 people in your meeting. So that spotlight view, that's great for one presenter, but with a webinar, you can have multiple panelists. So if you have more than one speaker that you want to actually, kind of focus on, then webinars let you have multiple panelists, I think up to 100. And then everybody else who's joining just joins as a viewer. So they don't have access to a microphone unless you allow them. You can in webinars, you can actually let people talk, but that has to come from the host. It can't come from, they can't turn it on. and they have no access to a camera. The only bad part about webinars is it costs, I think, $50 a month on top of your $40, on top of your $10. Is it $10? It's been a while. It just automatically pays for me. So I think
it's $14.99 is what I'm paying. I don't know what anybody else is.
You know what? That's probably right. That's probably right. It's been a while since I think I pay on
It
the
is.
annual fee anyway.
Yeah, it's 15 a month, and then the 40 webinar per month.
Okay. So the webinar is really great, and it does have it doesn't have some of the same features, but it has some others that meetings doesn't. Webinars has a Q&A function so that people can actually write a question and it just goes to the presenters. You can also use chat, but the Q&A is kind of neat because if you tell people you want them to submit their questions to the panelists, then that Q&A only goes to people who are panelists. So there's I think 3 or 4 different levels of participation. You can be a viewer or participant, you can be a panelist, and then you can be a host or co-host. So those are the kind of the rankings of webinars. I like webinars when there's a lot of people and it's just kind of a one-to-many kind of thing, or a panel to many, because it just really simplifies things. So Diane, you brought up something that a lot of people don't quite understand. Zoom is a CDN, or a content delivery network. So it doesn't matter how many people are in a meeting. That only matters on the Zoom side. For you personally, it's still your stream out and your stream back. And that will never change. The only thing that changes that is whether or not you're using high definition video, or if you're just using, that's your stream up. But no matter if there's 5 people or 10,000 people, that's on Zoom's side of everything. So you don't have to worry about that. Another thing that did come up with,
Can
absolutely,
I ask a
go ahead,
question?
please jump in.
Because they're the person from the zoo, and I think it was Carrie and Veronica both do webinars. Can you talk a little bit about how you do them and how you set them up and how they work?
I haven't actually done a webinar at this point. I'm going to be using it for a webinar or type of a training atmosphere, but I'm most likely going to set up a camera so people could see, or maybe I'll even create videos I could stream through Zoom and not Facebook, YouTube. I'm just trying to get to that point because of the fact that I want to have as many teams as possible go through the class, but because of this whole social distancing and everything changing so much, I don't want it to become a problem. I just want to be able to provide this instructions and then maybe have them possibly perform it. I'm still in the works of that.
Okay.
The webinar goes.
Well, maybe Carrie can tell us what she's doing as far as, because it sounds like you're doing a lot of training through the zoo. And then maybe Ken can talk to us about how you get those on YouTube and how that works. So, I mean, that's another thing about, because we're recording this, and all those recordings should be on our YouTube page, but how you tag them so people can find them, and how you actually take those links. So I'm asking too many questions. Carrie, tell us what you do for the zoo.
So the education department is doing the bulk of our webinars, offering those online classes to anybody who wants to sign up. So we do them twice a day on Thursday. So we have 2 today, one at 11 and another at 2 o'clock. And the way we have it set up is that you can go to our website, you click on a link, it takes you to our registration platform, which is Blackbaud Altru. So it's separate from Zoom. It's just how we have people register for programs, buy tickets, all that stuff. And once they register, so the classes are free, the webinars are free, they're about 20 minutes, half an hour each. They then get sent a link automatically, the Zoom link, that on that day, they click on it and it will open just like you did for a meeting for the webinar. So we typically have 3 people who are running, so either panelist or co-host or host during the webinar, and we have found that just makes it easier to manage all the aspects. So you've got the main person who is actually giving the content, their video is spotlighted so they can go through their slides, whether it's a PowerPoint or slides created on Google Slide. And then we have somebody else who's helping to manage the participants. So if we don't really enable waiting room because we don't know who they are. So we can't say, yes, we'll admit you, we just let everybody come in. But they're managing that. So if we do get Zoom bombed or anything, that they can shut it down pretty quickly if need be. And then we have somebody else, the chat is, we don't really use Q&A all that often, but we use the chat and we have it set up so it just goes to the panelists. So the panelists only see the chat and we have somebody monitoring chat. So if there are questions, they can help answer. The presenter also will look at chat when they ask questions. We ask participants to type in the chat their responses, so they kind of monitor at those points. But the person who is watching chat will then also keep track of questions for later, for at the end of the program. So if we didn't get questions answered, we can go back and answer them at that point. We do record them so that then we can post them on the website. So if you weren't able to attend, or if your link didn't work for some reason, we can get it that way. And the way we have it set up is it's just recording the panelists, the host presenting. It does not record participants. So we tell people that at the beginning, that they aren't recorded. So if they have any concerns with their kids, because this is predominantly for kids, any concerns for their kids being recorded, they don't have to worry about that. That was a lot of info and just like,
That's
So
great.
Diane, the setup, the creating classes and stuff, creating meetings is very, very similar to meetings. So if you go to your, actually, I guess I could share a screen really quick, and let me do that. I can share this. So here, this is my my account page. I have webinars, so I would go over here and then just schedule a webinar. And it's almost exactly the same, except you'll see like Q&A. That is the difference between meetings and webinars. But other than that, setting it up is almost exactly the same. I would say that with webinars, only the host can start the webinar, but that's pretty much the same, I think, even with meetings. And although if technically with meetings, if you have enabled join before host, if everybody who goes in joins that room, and they can talk and visit and stuff. So it's really great. Zoom meetings for engagement, for letting people, like for us at the Oasis Institute, a lot of the classes are really interactive. If you have like book clubs and things like that, where people are used to visiting and talking, then you can kind of continue those relationships by using Zoom meetings, just setting them up and letting your book clubs, or letting whatever groups, like I think Tori was talking about her volunteers, you know, they've got a Tuesday group and a Wednesday group and a Thursday group. And so even just facilitating them continuing to talk to each other lessens the possibility that they're going to drop out of the whole organization that they're not going to be ready to come back. So by keeping those things, and I was really struck with an earlier conversation, because I've been thinking of it as like the organization keeping in touch with the volunteers, but really the volunteers are inspiring the staff that's really going through a whole bunch of stuff right now too. So that keeping those relationships together means that, you know, when you get to open your doors back up, or you're still needing the donations, because we all know that volunteers are sometimes our biggest financial donors as well as their time. So those are some of the considerations for meetings. So training, like Carrie was just saying, sometimes it's easier, especially if you have, like in her use case, they've got children. So they definitely don't want to be recording children. So using a webinar, make sure that only the panelists are going to ever be recorded, because otherwise you can't, you know, the participants are not recorded unless you specifically turn on their mic so they can ask a question. That would be the only time that they would do that. So where should we go next? That's kind of meetings versus webinars. I also want to say that, and you probably all know this, but Zoom has a lot of teaching resources, a lot of learning resources out there. There's all kinds of webinars and video training and stuff on the Zoom website. So, and it's a support.zoom.us, and their search function is really great. So just type in whatever it is that you need, and it'll help out. Specifically, who has a question about hardware, cameras, microphones, that kind of thing? What is your question?
Can I just add? So I have been, I think I may have found the answer for myself, and you can tell me if I sound okay. Do I sound okay right now?
Yeah, you sound really good.
Yeah, I had a microphone. I have an external microphone and, of course, an external webcam camera, you know, and it was just a question of getting it to sound good on the recordings. But yesterday, I think, actually, believe it or not, my computer guy who set up my external camera for me had it backwards. And you can't tell by looking at it which way it really should be, but I think that really improved my, I was concerned because I'm in a big room and they say, oh, well, find some small, well, I'm using a desktop, so I can't like take my laptop into a small bathroom or something. So if you say my sound is good, then my questions have been answered.
Well, if you're doing video, you have a very bright light behind you.
That is, yeah, I do know that. I'm not doing video. Radio shows don't do video.
Yeah.
I mean, it does record it, but I don't use it. And so that part I don't have to worry about. That's, I could put it, it's my window to the outside, and
Right.
I could cover that.
Tell her how to do the backgrounds, because she could.
Yeah, let me see. I'll show you how to do it. I'll put on a virtual background and see if that gets it away.
You would have to have a green background, however, otherwise you're going to turn into a ghost and kind of become part of the background. That's what I'm.
What?
When you put a virtual background, you have to have either a one color background, so you could select that color.
For some reason, it's not letting me do it in here.
So that's a good
Zoom.
point about the green screen. Is that what you're referring to? You have to have a green screen?
Yes, or a screen that you could select that color. But like just
Zoom.
let's just say you have it. All I can talk. He knows better.
Yeah. Zoom actually does have a software-driven smart background feature, and I think Carrie just turned hers on. So you don't have to have it. Zoom actually uses software to memorize the background, and then it like I can do mine also. It's not perfect. It depends. Carrie's looks really good.
I can usually do mine, but it's giving me this strange message when I go on to it. Download smart virtual background package. I've never had that before. Because did you ever hear of that?
That might be something new.
the Zoom Smart download package? Yes, that's the software part that memorizes your background. So my background is obviously, that's my actual background. And by turning the, if I
I'll
select
download it.
this
Yeah.
virtual background, then
Can you show us how you do
in my
that?
case, let's see if, let me just share my whole screen here, and we'll see how that works. So go over here to the bottom left to the video and click this little up arrow, and then go to video settings, and then make sure you're selected video here, and then oh, I'm sorry, virtual background here, and then you can select, I have a whole bunch in here because
How do you add them?
You have to download it from your computer. So when there's a thing that a little add image, right? The little X, the plus sign that says add image.
Okay.
You add it from your computer in your saved files.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay.
If you want
Thank
to
you.
add other backgrounds from here, including videos. I actually think, I'm not sure if I've got, well, these move. You can see these are actually videos. Now, you have to make sure, do not click I have a green screen if you don't.
Yeah, because let me show you what happens when you do that. If you click that, this is what happens.
Right.
Yeah. And I have an old computer, so it's actually telling me I don't meet the requirements for that.
So I actually do have a green screen, and I actually have a special lighting system for it. So if I were to add this to me now and then click green screen, it makes me much clearer in that. But for normal, for doing webinars, if you don't have to be too awfully great at it, then just using a virtual background is fine. I can try. I used to have some superheroes. I don't have those anymore.
There we go.
Oh, that looks so good. Okay.
Where's my coffee shop?
Aspen, look at hers. Woo.
Yeah.
It's kind of true for now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Well,
any other questions about virtual backgrounds?
Well, I noticed that in me that you could see this funky thing around my head. It didn't used to do that, but I just downloaded this package. I'm wondering if something's changed, because it used to be, I didn't see that weird funky thing around my head.
It's your aura. You have a better aura.
Yes, I do have an aura happening here.
Okay, so that's green screen, and I
It's
do notice
literally a green screen that you put up.
that was actually a green screen.
I thought it was a kind of computer monitor.
Oh no. So greens. If anybody's thinking about green screens, I'll tell you that just doing a green screen is very, very technically difficult to do a perfect green screen. So Carrie's was really great with just that white background. So that works out really well for Zoom. So when I'm doing actual professional green screen, I have a series of lights up here that are very expensive. You have to move way out away from that and then separately light myself. And especially for me, because if the green light bounces off of the green screen and hits my white hair, then my hair turns green, and it just goes in and out all the time. So, green screen itself is something that can be a little bit technically challenging and pretty expensive to do right. So using Zoom for backgrounds is a great thing, just for fun. It does use up a little bit more computer resources though, so you might want to be careful with that.
Oh, you still have the aura, Aspen.
You know, I'm thinking that aura is from the light.
Yeah,
Yes.
So that I just have an aura. It's just it.
Just run with it, you know, take advantage of that one.
absolutely. Okay, what's our next question? Are you all comfortable with where you find your settings, making default settings? You understand where those are at, or does anyone have further questions about that?
I wouldn't mind a refresher, a quick refresher, just in case I forgot something, or if
Okay.
people want to move on, that's okay with me too.
No, that's fine. So once you go to your account online, then over here you have two different sections. Here's personal and administrative. If you have a paid account, you can go into account management and into account settings. And the difference here is that you can lock settings. So these settings are pretty much the same, whether you access them here under admin or you access them here under settings. There's the top section is schedule meeting. Then there's in meeting basic, which I must have passed, in meeting basic and in meeting advanced. So these are your default settings. If you want, for some reason, to lock them and you have a paid account, you can go over here into account settings here, and you see there's a lock beside things. So this is for the administrative end of it, that you can, so I basically recommend that you turn everything off if you use your account primarily or even fairly regularly for classroom type things, because it just makes it's easier to turn somebody's audio on than it is to, once they start doing stuff, if you've got a lot of people in there and you got barking dogs in the background, to figure out who that's coming from and to start turning people off. So, but that's kind of a personal choice, just like using the waiting room. It depends on what you're doing. If your book club or your yoga club wants to come in early and visit before the class starts, then you don't want to use a waiting room. Let them maintain those relationships. But these pretty much pass right down through from the admin to personal. And much of this that is here in the schedule meeting part here at the top, these are pretty much your settings when you go to meetings and schedule a new meeting. So what you see here is what you set up. These are the defaults that came from your settings. Does that make sense? But you can change them here. So my default is that video is on. I can turn this off from here. So with each meeting, I'll decide who I'm meeting with, what the purpose of the meeting is, and then create the differences here. Now, the one thing that I want to make sure that everybody is doing is that you're generating all public meetings automatically. So this is where bombers get you. If you have a personal meeting number and you advertise that on social media and people get a hold of it, then your personal meetings are no longer safe, because somebody can just drop into your meetings and see if you're holding a meeting and try to get in. So you want to use a generated number. And this is the generated number. This is the link right here. It's an 11-digit number. So if you are scheduling a single meeting that's for an hour, what are the chances that somebody is going to type in this 11-digit number at that same time to bother you? Almost none. It's very unlikely. But just for yucks, let's go schedule a meeting really quick. And require meeting password and save that. Now look at this number. See how long that is? So what my feeling is that if somebody is having trouble with your link, now, if you use a password, be kind, and in your settings, have this enabled: embed password in meeting for one-click join, so that your link includes that great big, well, your password, it's included in the link. Otherwise, when people click your link, they're then going to be taken to a screen that says, type in your password. Then they have to go back to the email, find the password, and type it in. The problem is that they're not going to know that the password is in the email. And this is the single biggest cause of issues with people joining a meeting, is that they have to find the password. They have to know where to find the password. They have to go back, search for your email, and then type it in to get it in. If you don't have this already, if you don't have this turned on.
Can I have a question related to that? Is there a way that you can schedule a meeting and have it go to your, and send it to your Google, your calendar, your Outlook calendar, or have it go on your calendar instead of have to go back to the email constantly and click that link?
Yes. Does anybody have an integration that you're using? Do you want to jump in and explain it? You can, Tori. You can go into, you can actually link your email with Zoom, and that's kind of an administrative part that you do that we can go through later. I've never actually done it because I don't use that function, but yes, the answer is yes, you can.
Okay, I can maybe find out about that on the training or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
right now you would have to go to the Zoom. I'm sorry that I've never done it, but
okay, no worries.
Zoom Help Center and type in calendar. Let's see if calendar might be all we need. Sync calendars, Google Calendar add-on.
Okay.
Calendar public meetings. So you can, there's, depending on if you're using Outlook or Gmail, the process might be a little bit different, but
Okay.
they do allow you to do that.
Yeah, sometimes mine I don't even know how it happens, but it asks me automatically, do I want to add this to my Gmail calendar? Do I want to add it to my Outlook? But I don't remember doing anything to get it to ask me that.
I think if you're signed in with a Gmail account, it automatically does that.
Okay.
And so for our organization, just like Carrie's, we don't actually use the registration process that Zoom has because we're using some other kind of registration process. And so this is just something that we don't normally do. Now, if you save it to your Google Calendar, then you can go to that, add email to that, and then invite people to that event. And that's like a third way to track who's registering for your thing, because it's in your calendar then. But for those of us who have a registration process where people may pay money or whatever in order to use the corporate or the organizational sign-up process, we don't use any of that.
How does it work to schedule a meeting ahead of time? Like if you go in there and you're scheduling a meeting, if I fill out all that stuff and then does it send me something?
No, just like we just did. We'll make yet another meeting right here. So we go to schedule a new meeting, or if I was on webinars, schedule a new webinar.
Yeah.
And then you just put in
the name,
your date and time.
Yeah.
And then make sure your time zone is set correctly, because I did that too.
Yeah.
And then registration, I'm not sure anybody here would be using the registration process, but Zoom does have a pretty neat registration process, and you can actually use it to collect a whole lot of information. You can ask for name, address, phone number, custom fields. You can create all of those in the registration process, and you just select your options, and once you've got your date and time, and then click save.
Save. And
So,
where does it go?
well, then you go to your meetings and go to upcoming meetings and see this list.
Yes.
So this green dot, that's what we are in right now. And these three we've just created during this webinar as I've just been clicking and making new meetings.
So then if I want to share that with somebody,
Just click on whichever meeting that you are interested in.
yeah.
And then copy the invitation. And there it is right there.
And
you
where
can
did you go to copy the invitation?
Copy the meeting invitation, paste this into an email,
Okay.
and send.
Okay.
And it's got all of the information that you need right here.
Okay.
And here you can add it. This does give you the options of adding it right here to your calendar.
Oh yeah.
But I think if you do this, see it presents an ICS file. I'm in Google, so I think it just automatically brings up my list, and then I can just put it into my calendar just by saving it.
You can also use the app, and that's a really easy way to copy the link for your meetings.
Yeah, and once you're in a meeting, you can also just copy the link. But if this is all that you have to worry about for a link, rather than that incredibly long number, this is fairly easy. Even if you have like support on the phone, if you have a facilitator or somebody who needs to send it in chat or send it on Facebook Messenger or something, it's a lot better than trying to send that other one that I created that had whichever one it was that had that incredibly long number. This one, you never want to have to try to verbally tell anybody that, because that would be a mess. I know with our organization, we work mostly with older adults. So my thing is to make it as simple as possible. Which includes contacting everybody who's registered ahead of time with instructions on how to download the app and install the app, while still being mindful that some of our, not right now, but a lot of our training participants, because the material that I create is used in libraries and senior centers and stuff all across the country to train people how to use iPhones and iPads and Word and Excel and all those things. And a lot of people are learning from a library. So be aware that if part of your audience is there in a library situation, they cannot download the Zoom app. They can't download it because library computers are locked down. And if they're in a senior center, group housing, anything like that, their computer may be locked down and they cannot install the Zoom app. So you can let them join via a browser. And that also is in settings. And I'm just going to do a Control F and type in browser. So show from your browser link. I recommend that you turn this on. But if you may need to send instructions to the people who are joining you via browser. That browser does need to be Chrome. The Chrome browser. So there's so many permutations. It just kind of gets crazy. They can join from other browsers, but if you want them to be able to speak, they have to use the Chrome browser. So some of the other features like sharing and stuff won't be available for people who are joining via browser. But if you know, just being aware of who your participants are and whether or not they are actually able to download and install the Zoom app is important. Also, people who are joining with their mobile devices. All right. Where should we go next, folks? I'm having fun.
Ken, can I ask, I thought I was chatting and I was muted. So I've had people join on iPads or mobile devices and they can't enable their camera. Is that a setting on my end or is it on their end?
The difference with, okay, this brings up, let me jump back to something else really quick before it's in the same vein, but I want to make sure that we see something else. Let me go back up here to toolbar, should do it. This one here, always show meeting toolbar. I suggest that you turn that on and lock it on. And here's the reason why. If you're dealing with people who are new to Zoom, and especially if they're not familiar with computers, what happens is they're looking at the Zoom client, the Zoom app, and the toolbar by default disappears. And you say, click the chat button down below, and they're like, I don't see a chat button down below, because they have to move their cursor before it shows back up. And this, I find, is not very consistent. We've done some testing with this and found that it doesn't always stay on for everybody, but I turn it on anyway and hope for the best. It's just one of those things that helps. If you say, click the button at the bottom and the button is there, you have a much better chance of people finding it and using it than if it's not there and they have to go mess around with it. Now, as far as this is let's go back. Actually, I could just share this, I guess. But you could see on the iPad, see at the top, the camera button. Now, it is staying there, and I think it's because I do have that selected, the always show toolbar, because with a device like this, normally you have to tap the screen in order to bring that up. But that's how you can turn this. I can turn this video on, and then you can see more of my whole setup here. Just all this stuff. So mobile devices are virtually the same, except you can even share content. You can use those as a second camera, which I just kind of did. When a presenter needs a second camera, I'll often just recommend that they just join it with an iPhone. Just join the meeting with an iPhone, and then they can use that as the second camera. There's also a way to share directly. You can also share it directly. Go ahead.
2 accounts or the same account?
No, I actually joined this one without signing into an account. So basically, I just went to Zoom, or I opened the Zoom app because it's on there. I opened the Zoom app and typed in the number, and then hit join. But you can also, part of what you can share is actually, if you go to content from a second camera. Let me share screen here again.
Okay.
If you go to share,
for
you can.
demos.
Pardon?
I'll definitely need to use that for demos.
Yeah, we have a lot of instructors who put their PowerPoint on their iPad, and then they use this. They use this as a selection, You can also, if you go to advanced, you can use content from a second camera here.
Okay.
And then here you can link into files that you have in the cloud. Okay.
So
I know there
Ken,
was something else. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
so would for iPads, would the always show meeting toolbar solve the problem for iPads? It's not, somebody, Todd mentioned it might be the Safari browser. Is it, would that take care of it? Always click that, show the toolbar?
No, if at all possible, you always want people to use the Zoom app. So the Zoom app is on my devices, and so I haven't gone back and forth and tried this out, because I just recommend that you turn on always show toolbar. I have, however, been in other meetings with other people with the iPad, and the toolbar wasn't there until I tapped the screen. My question is, what I would have to test out is, does that setting that I recommend, turn the toolbar on, does that actually affect the iPad and digital or portable devices? And it seems like it does. It seems like it must.
And would that also put on the reaction portion of the toolbar? Because some meetings I go to that I'm invited to, there's no reaction ability.
Let me stop a share here. Well, you have to turn reactions on in settings or it won't show up. You have to turn chat on in settings. I was just in a yoga session and she was looking all over for the chat settings, but she had it turned off. So there was no way to turn it off. Once you started a meeting, you can't go back and turn it on if it's off in settings.
Okay, so it's a host, the host has to do it.
Yes, as you're scheduling the meeting or in your settings, you need to go and make sure that chat is turned on, that nonverbal reactions is turned on, that polls is turned on. You need to, and breakout rooms, if you ever want to use breakout rooms. I just leave all of those turned on because I don't want to get into a situation where I've started a Zoom meeting and all of a sudden I need a function and I can't, without stopping the Zoom meeting, start a new one. So
thank you.
If you can look here, there's a little button here. I should be sharing my screen rather than doing it this way, but I haven't set this up. So you don't have all of the same functions. This is a couple of hands clapping, but you can do chat. And I will confess, I don't normally use the mobile app except as a monitor situation to see how my feed is working.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay. And something else just slipped my mind. It was closely related to this. Do you know about the nonverbal reactions?
So the thumbs up and stuff.
Can you see over here on my screen? This is what Zoom calls nonverbal reactions. So if you click on something, you have I need a break, you have hands clapping, thumbs up, thumbs down, go faster, go slower, yes, no. So go ahead and click on some of those. Okay, Aspen just clicked on the go slower.
So all I have is a thumbs up and clapping.
Earlier I had more, but right now I only have thumbs up and clapping.
Well, you have to look over, not on the bottom of your screen, but over underneath participants. When you look on the side of your screen, under participants gives you more options.
Oh.
Yes. Open the participants window first. And then you'll see these red. Now this is different than the reactions that are at the bottom.
Right.
So you can use both or either. but you have to turn them on before you start the meeting. So you have to go to settings and turn on reactions and turn on polls and turn on nonverbal reactions. And then if you can see here, it shows up every icon that somebody clicks shows up by their name. And then I can just clear them all, or I can clear them one at a time. I can just click clear all and they're all gone. So here's something else, since we're up here in this area. There's a function in here called allow people to rename themselves. It's in settings. Allow participants to rename themselves. I strongly suggest that you turn that on and leave it on. And the reason is because people will come in and there will be two Lindas. Be going. In fact, this happened in our Zoom meeting. We had in our SAVMA meeting, we had two Jennifers or something, and I was like, I don't know which is which. Or when we had a whole bunch of people for the webinar, and I needed to promote one from a participant to a panelist, and I wasn't sure who it was. Mm-hmm. So let them, they may have a nickname, and it may just be appropriate to say, hey, whoever, add your last name so we know who you are, that kind of thing. I've never had any trouble with that. It's not like I give webinars every day, but I kind of like to just let people rename themselves. I haven't run into any issues why I would be concerned with that. Now, this down here, the security, I'm still sharing my screen, right? This is brand new. This has only been part of Zoom for maybe a month now. This was in partial reaction to all the criticism that Zoom had about their security issues. And this is really neat because it gives you a couple of things that otherwise you used to have to dig through a more complex process to turn on or off. And here you can easily remove a participant, do a report, turn off share screen. I actually just have mine defaulted to turn off. If somebody wants to share a screen, they have to ask me, and all I have to do is click security and then click share screen. And now everybody here is you're all able to share a screen.
You can only see that if you're a host, though. The security. Correct. You can't see it like now. We can't see that on the bottom.
Right. So you can also lock a meeting, which means no one else can come in. You can enable the waiting room, which means anybody trying to join goes to the waiting room, and then it'll show up to the host that there's somebody in the waiting room, and you can go and let them in or not. But this change was very welcome. I was hoping that Zoom will also add a way to turn off everybody's cameras all at once, but that almost makes it like webinars. So I'm almost certain they're not going to do that because that makes it almost exactly the same, except you can still only have one basic presenter with meetings if you want to highlight them. So I'm not sure they'll do that. So we are over time, but I'm okay. You guys want to keep firing questions? I have no place to go.
This was super helpful.
Yes,
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yes.
I thought I knew everything.
I don't.
There's always something else. I didn't go into, like I used to go into settings, but not from the main page. I'd go in off of, I don't know how to call everything what it is, but where you see the place that you go into that says return to a meeting, schedule a meeting, join a meeting, share a meeting. That's where I used to go into everything from.
Right. But, so that's actually the app. Let me go back to sharing my screen. That's actually the app, this. And
that, yes, that.
And then you can you can access some, but not all.
But not all of it, and I didn't realize that. That's good to know.
Yeah, the majority of your settings are on the web in your account, and I know it confused me when I first started doing it. And then there's different, they're repeated literally on 3 different pages. So you have your administrative settings, your personal settings, and then some of those are also in setting and scheduling a meeting. So what I really suggest, you go to some of these things. I actually go into my administrative part and lock them, so I can't even change them when I'm just making a meeting.
How do you lock
They're
it?
just important. Well, if you go to the, let's go back.
Sorry to ask all these.
No, that's fine. Here under the admin part, if you go to account management and then you go to account settings.
Yeah.
So here you have the same kind of thing. You have this long page full of settings. The difference in this.
I see the lock thing.
Exactly. You can lock it. You can say you want it locked or unlocked. So think of this as the highest tier of access. If you lock it here and other people are using the account, but they only have access to personal, they can't change that. So this is really for corporate use, where you have a Zoom administrator and you can create different kinds of groups. You may have a group that is only allowed in if they're signed in with a corporate email, and another group that it allows people to come in from other organizations, but they're labeled as guests. And so there's just a whole lot of corporate tools in here. And so that's one of the reasons Zoom gets kind of confusing for us. So for the most part, you can just go to personal and go to settings, and everything you need is right here.
Yeah.
But it's a long list. And so actually the video that I'll share with you goes
I have one more question about polls. Did you cover that? Can you just show us quick how to do polls?
Sure, absolutely. Let's go back to this. So what you want to do is you have to schedule a meeting first. So if I go up here to my meetings and let's go to the one that we just created here, my meeting, and open that. Now I can edit this meeting. So you can edit any meeting or webinar. You can edit the settings before you start it. But right down here, if you see, there's poll, and then to the right, there's add. So if I click add over here, now a poll is a question or a series of questions that launches all at the same time. So once I add a question here, let me just type in some gobbledygook, and I'll leave this as single choice, and that's one answer, and that's the other answer, and I save it. Then you'll see I've added a poll to this meeting, and I can edit it, and I can add another question and save it. Now, when I launch that poll, both of those questions come up at the same time. So if I want a poll at the beginning of the meeting and then one later, I have to add another poll. So I would just click add, do some more gobbledygook, and save it. Now I have 2 polls. So what I'm trying to emphasize is that a poll can be one or more questions, but any poll launches all at once. So you can have a whole bunch of polls. You can have each one can have multiple questions. And if you just Google humorous poll questions, just like the ones I put in this morning, they're great icebreakers. I mean, if if you can time into current events and stuff, especially, then that just makes it just a little bit more fun. If I go back now to the polls that I did earlier, actually, I should just share my screen again. So this is the poll that I started with, and this poll has 2 questions. I could relaunch it. I could give it to you again. In fact, let me do that. It brings up this warning. It's going to erase the results that we had using the same poll before. But that's all you have to do. If you've created polls ahead of time, go down here and click polls, and then choose the poll from this down arrow. And then this says relaunch, but normally it would just say launch. And then it comes up with a timer, and you get real-time results from the participants. And then you'll have a button down here that says end poll. And then once you end the poll, you have the opportunity to share it. So I'll just relaunch this. So if I relaunch this, you can see the timer up here. And as people answer, you'll get, like if I answer over here on my
I'll answer one here.
iPad, you'll see that they go up as people are answering. And then once I end the polling, I have the opportunity, I can share the results. Right now, it's only on my screen, but if I click share results, it shows up on everybody's screen. Now, let me show you something else real quick. I'm still sharing my whole screen, right? Let me go back to this. Once you've done that, you can go into your admin part down to reports and go over here, and you can uh-oh, I lost it. Where? Okay, where did it come? I'm sorry, I'm going to the wrong place somehow. Oh, I want to cover I'll just bypass this because I'm not finding it right away. The results of your polls are available to you in your meeting reports. And the chat stream is available to you as a text file in your meeting reports. And if you are recording, then once you're finished with a meeting or webinar, and once you shut it down, a box will come up and it'll say your video is being processed. And it will share, it'll save the actual whole meeting with audio and video to your computer. Now, the interesting part about this is that you can record it both to the cloud, to Zoom, and you can record it to your local computer. And if you turn on everybody's ability, they can each record to their computer. And it's actually their recording. So their recording may be a little bit different than yours. For instance, if they pin a video so that they're seeing one big video, then it's going to record their screen. And if you pin a different video, it'll show a different recording because it pins that video. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can record both to the cloud and to your local computer. And then once you stop a meeting, it'll actually process the video, let you know when it's done. And then you can actually, just like we do with SAVMA, we can upload that to YouTube.
So how familiar are you? Because I use I divide up the channels for the different voices of the different people. There's an
Uh-huh.
option in there. Are you familiar with that option? So that it actually
No.
saves everybody's, like if I'm here and you're there and there's somebody else is there, it saves those all as separate audios.
No, I've never used that.
I use it because it helps with people talking over each other.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
clearer.
yeah. The more people you have, the, if you have people join audio either on their phone or they're wearing headsets, that actually clears up a bunch of issues with, because my speakers and my microphone can't be on at the same time, or else I'd have feedback. So Zoom very, very quickly cuts different people off. And that's why, because two people can't be talking at the same time and stuff. It's not actually duplex audio. It's actually simplex, and only one person can actually talk at a time, and your speaker and your microphone can't be on simultaneously, or it would cause a real problem. So those are some options if you want people to, if you're having audio issues, um, you might try that. I did want to also cover really quickly. I am, my webcam is a very expensive camera, and it's basically a mirrorless DSLR type with 4K and all that kind of good stuff. So people who want to use high definition camcorders and DSLRs and stuff for Zoom as their camera can do that, but you have to go through a capture card. And that introduces a number of problems. But if you're looking to upgrade, like I have a mixing board and I have a series of cameras up here. And it gets a little bit complex because a DSLR camera is 5 frames slower than the audio if they're not coming into the same place. So if you have any questions about that kind of stuff, just get a hold of me and I'll be happy to walk you through the different options. Because if you're really looking for super high quality, like my picture on my screen is super high definition. So if I record my screen, I actually have a almost broadcast quality video. But if I were to use this camera and then a USB mic, then my voice and my lips would be out of sync by 5 frames because it's a DSLR. It's an HDMI output. So if you have an SDI, HDMI, if you have any questions about that, just get a hold of me because it's way too much to.
Can I ask you a question that's quite simpler than what you just tried
Sure.
to explain? So I have an Insignia microphone, I have a webcam, and I have speakers.
Uh-huh.
So I'm wondering, do I shut off my speakers because
Well,
of possible feedback?
well, you're not having any feedback, so I would say no.
Don't do anything.
Zoom is basically taking care of that for you.
Okay. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Now, if I turn on the audio in this iPad, then we'll start having trouble because this iPad is wanting to listen to the audio stream and not shutting the speakers off. But when I'm speaking, Zoom is taking care of my speakers so that I don't have this big audio feedback. Okay. Is there anything else that we want to talk about? We've touched on a lot of different things.
That was super helpful, Ken.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, listen,
Super helpful.
I'll send the links to Diane for these latest videos that I've made, and she can send them out to you. And I'll just put in chat here.
Oh, there's your email account. And I can include that in what I send out to Ken.
Okay. There's
Sweet.
my email and my phone. You shoot me a text, shoot me an email. If you have some issues, need to have some talk something over. And that includes LMSs and websites and WordPress and just all kinds of different things that I've worked with through the years, and happy to try to walk you through any problems that you have.
We appreciate your generosity and your expertise. This was fun because we didn't have that big a group, but we could delve into the details of this. Maybe another time we'll pull this together again.
Yeah, I was almost thinking we should have like Zoom Mondays or something. Or
I am in. And if any of the ladies would like to be on my radio show, I do a radio show about women. It's called Broad Perspectives Radio. It's by women, about women, but for everyone.
That's cool. Would you be willing to do a radio show when we have a SAVMA Awards every year where we honor all the volunteers? Would you be willing to?
Yes, yes.
Promote that? Help us promote that.
We can totally do. I would love to help you promote that.
That would be awesome.
So you know how to get a hold of me, and I'd be glad to do any show with any one of you ladies. And sorry, Ken, we can talk about you though.
We expose my feminine side or something here.
I would, that.
That works. So I just want to also,
when I send out this email to everybody, you can reply all and give us links and details and that sort of thing. So, and we might just have to put you on the program committee at SAVMA because we really could use your expertise.
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to you, Aspen.
This has been just the best part of my day. So I'm going to say sure.
And
awesome.
It was great to see some like the zoo people and the U of A people, and it was just a nice mix. Thank you, everybody.
So I also want to tell you on the 21st is the next SAVMA meeting, and Chris Elsner, who was in the meeting earlier, is going to be talking about technology and how to leverage technology for the work that we do. Hope to see you there.
So it'll be a little bit different take than Ken because it's from a different perspective, but see. Now we got to see the nursery in his home and his 2 children. Now you know him.
Yes, yes.
And actually, he's going to work with Ken to do it because Ken will probably be on the line with him. The 2 of them we're going to use Ken's Zoom account and.
Sure. So remind me. Go ahead, Ken.
I do have a webinar account. If somebody needs to do a webinar, just wants to try it out or something like that. I'll schedule a webinar. As long as I'm not using the account at that time, I'm happy to borrow out my webinar status.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Remind me, Diane, what did you want me to serve on what did you want me to do that I said yes?
I'll send you something separately.
Would you? Because, I'm going to delete it from my memory if you don't. So.
And it's working on things like this to get these kinds of things, content that we would like to have for the community, for the volunteer manager community.
Okay.
And Ken and I will talk about, Zoom updates or Zoom forums because it might make sense to do this. We're doing it in May. It might make sense to do this in June.
And Carrie and Veronica, let me invite you, if there is more information that you would like to learn about SAVMA and be involved in a new way, please reach out to us. We're looking to kind of grow what we're doing and the impact we have. So you guys are doing some innovative things with your volunteers, and just hearing about that helps me think outside my little frame box. So I know other people would like to hear some of those ideas. So
absolutely. Thank you.
Have an open invitation to pursue this more with SAVMA. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, guys, thanks so much. Hope to hear from you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful day.